Hello, and welcome to Hysteria. I'm Erin Ryan.
And I'm Alyssa Mastromonaco.
So this was another episode where we had plans. We had a whole outline, basically. We were actually pretty on top of it this week.
We had some interesting things to talk about.
Yeah, there was a wide variety of stories that touched on issues that are important to us and to our listeners. And then on Tuesday, we sort of spent the whole day rejiggering the whole show for the worst possible reasons. And I'm just going to say this is going to be a hard one to get through for me.
Same.
So it's been a rough run of news, I think, for people. Been a rough run of news for me. I'm not even like personally directly impacted by these things right this second, but what is happening is deeply upsetting. What is happening in this country is deeply upsetting. I will introduce a bit of levity before we get into the story. A few weeks ago, when the draft Roe opinion was released and it was clear that not only does a majority of the Supreme Court have a contempt for Roe v. Wade, but a majority of the Supreme Court have a contempt for women and people with uteruses. Somebody commented that when I am furious, I sound like I'm hammered. And I just wanted to say, that is the way.
Yes, that comment has come through.
That is the way. That is like the curse of being from the upper Midwest. That anybody that is from that part of the country, when they're really, really mad, they sound hammered. I'm just going to put that out there. I am not currently hammered. I'm very mad and very sad. So this week, on Tuesday, there was a mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas. At least 19 students and one teacher were killed, and over a dozen were injured. As of Wednesday morning, those are the numbers that we have. It might change. These things always change. The suspect, we don't know if the suspect is alive or dead at this point. The suspect is an 18-year-old man, and we don't have very much more information except these were little kids. The teacher who died was a fourth grade teacher, and the suspect engaged with law enforcement, which wasn't able to stop him before he got into the school and do what he did. So, Alyssa, where are you at today?
Well, Erin, like you said at the top of the show, this is hard. It doesn't impact me directly. But many years ago, when I worked at the White House, one of the things that I did oversee was the administration immediate response to what happened in Newtown. And I have been privy to information that I know is probably true in this case. And it is it's heartbreaking to think about what happened in that classroom yesterday. That a bunch of 10-year-olds, or I think the oldest kids were 10, were just fucking terrorized by this monster. And something I keep seeing on TV is that we're supposed to use the right words, right? And the right word for this is a massacre. That's what this was yesterday. And it's just like pretty incredible to see people, mostly our elected officials, asked questions about what happened, and to see so many of them say, see, this is why teachers need to be armed, or this is why, without understanding that, it has been widely reported this morning that the shooter, who I do actually think is deceased, that the shooter secured two assault style rifles one on his 18th birthday and one a few days later. And how that doesn't trigger something in the system to say, hey, this seems like a fucking problem. I don't know. It's all so hard to comprehend. It's terrible to have to watch these survivors from Parkland have to get on TV and talk today. The parents of the victims in Newtown have to get on TV to talk today to explain to people what these parents and families in the community in Uvalde are going through. It's like trauma on top of trauma. And there are literally a handful of United States senators standing in the way of some comprehensive gun reform, at least background checks at a minimum. Erin, other countries in the world have such different standards. In China, in Japan, in Canada. I mean, in order to get a gun, the amount of effort and work and background checks you have to go through, it's a lot harder than getting a driver's license here in America, and it should be. And I just, you know, I guess that's where I'm at. I'm very sad. I'm sad.
I was thinking about this. I don't really want to. I can't get into like the pain these parents must be going through without really breaking down, because it's horrible. But I really feel so angry at the sanctimony behind lawmakers who aren't doing anything about this, who are actively encouraging a legal backdrop where this is possible, who are accepting money from gun manufacturers, and then out of the other side of their mouths calling themselves pro-life or saying,
right,
all lives matter. Here's what I want to know. What lives matter? What lives matter? Because we know even before, all lives matter was a thing these fuckos were saying, we know that black and brown lives never mattered to them. We know that LGBTQ lives didn't matter to them. We know that the lives of trans kids don't matter to them. We know that the lives of Indigenous people don't matter to them. During COVID, we learned that the lives of disabled people didn't matter to them. We know that the lives of the elderly didn't matter to them. We know even that the lives of police don't matter to them. The number one killer of police last year was COVID.
Yep.
We know that, okay,
Yep.
so cops don't matter. Okay, interesting. We know that the lives of veterans don't matter because we are not taking care of the mental illness that veterans are suffering from. We know that the lives of mentally ill people don't matter, for that matter. We know the lives of prisoners don't matter. We know the lives of women don't matter. We know the lives of black mothers don't matter. We know the lives of black children don't matter. We know the lives of migrants don't matter. We know the lives of migrant babies don't matter. We know the lives of babies that need formula don't matter. We know the lives of women don't matter. What lives matter? We know the lives of men don't matter. The number one demographic of people killed by guns are men, oftentimes by suicide. We know the lives of the unborn don't even matter, because if they did, we would be promoting a world where poison wasn't being introduced into our environment that harmed children in utero. We know that the lives of kids in schools don't matter. Whose life matters? Does anybody's life matter? That's what I'm left with. Like, I feel like this country is not just a death cult. It is like a power cult. The only thing that matters is power and money, and literally nothing else. Loss of life does not matter. And I'm feeling very dark. And I don't have anything upbeat to say, and I'm really having a hard time with who we are. This is not the first time this has happened. This is not the last time this has happened. This is not the first time in the last 2 weeks that this has happened. But this is something that has pushed me to a point, on top of all the cumulative harm and pain and confusion and anger about the things that have already, this is the thing that has pushed me to a point where I don't know. I'm feeling very hopeless. And I'm sorry to say that into a microphone, but that's how I'm feeling.
Well, one, you're allowed to feel however you want to feel, and it's really hard not to feel hopeless, but I think that you and I really lucked out today because we have an incredible guest here to talk to us about this.
And I'm going to say, whenever we talk to Shannon Watts from Mom's Demand, on the other side of the conversation, I feel energized by my anger instead of kneecapped by it. Right now, I'm feeling kneecapped. So let's take a break and come back, regather our thoughts, regather our spirits, and move forward in a positive direction. Alyssa, I can think of, on a day like today, nobody I would want to talk to more.
We count ourselves as very lucky.
We count ourselves as very lucky that we get to speak with this person today. She's a dogged advocate. She is an inspirational person. She is the founder of Moms Demand Action, the largest grassroots gun violence prevention organization in the country. Shannon Watts, welcome to Hysteria.
Thank you for having me.
So on Tuesday, 19 children and 2 teachers were killed by an 18-year-old with an assault-style rifle in Uvalde, Texas. According to a public polling survey, 83% of the 105 million American gun owners support expanded background checks. That said, here we are. Late last night, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer started a process that could force the Senate to hold votes on 2 House-passed bills to expand background checks for gun purchases. Will the Senate actually act this time?
Look, I am always hopeful after a national shooting tragedy happens. I will not give in to cynicism because I really do believe that's what the gun lobby wants. That's what gun extremists want. They want us to feel hopeless. They want us to feel helpless. They want us to accept this as life in America. I will never do that. I am the mother of 5 kids. And, I have a 26-year-old daughter who is a childcare teacher in Bloomington, Indiana, and she has to go to school today and read a book called When Terrible Things Happen. I will never accept that as being the price of the Second Amendment. It is never what our founders intended. It has been perverted by the gun lobby to mean guns for anyone, anywhere, anytime, no questions asked. I know that everyone is waiting for this cathartic moment in the Senate. It's happened in the House, thanks to people like Lucy McBath, who was a Moms Demand Action volunteer and gun violence survivor, who, when she was elected, the first thing she did was to help pass gun safety legislation. But that doesn't mean that we are not making progress in state houses and boardrooms and school boards and corporate boards rooms. Like this is not just the Senate. I'm going to put pressure on the Senate. We are going to try to pass federal legislation. But in the meantime, there is work to be done, life-saving work.
What are some of the most common sense gun measures that could be enacted? Can any of this be done through something like an executive order by President Biden?
There may be more that he can do. I want to be clear that the Biden-Harris administration has done more than any administration in history on this issue. I was just at the White House a few weeks ago when President Biden signed a ghost gun ban, a new rule that will regulate ghost guns the same way that regular firearms are regulated. But right now, our nation is a patchwork of gun safety laws. And we're all only as safe as the closest state with the weakest gun laws. That is why we do need federal action. Now, in the meantime, we have been passing strong laws, frankly, in blue states, and we've watched lawmakers weaken gun laws in red states. And it's created a petri dish of sorts where we can look at the data and we can see how to stop gun violence. And I know this is intuitive, but let me just tell you that this data shows that that states with stronger gun laws have less gun violence and gun death, and states with weak gun laws have more gun violence and death. This is intuitive, but if our lawmakers are really committed to making laws based on data, which is what they're supposed to do, then they would follow the data and we would have stronger gun laws.
Have you seen any grassroots and community-based approaches to gun violence that you find exceptionally effective, and are they scalable?
So we are now the largest grassroots movement in the country. We are larger than the NRA, and we have volunteers all over the country who wake up and do this work every single day, right? It's like drips on a rock. I know we all want wholesale overnight change. Unfortunately, the system's not set up for that. It's set up for incremental change that leads to revolutions. And that is the work our Moms Demand Action and Students Demand Action volunteers do every single day in partnership with other organizations on the ground. And it isn't just legislative fixes, although we do pass good gun laws and stop bad. And it isn't just electoral work, although we do get out the vote every single election cycle. And many of our own volunteers either run for office or turn into campaign managers. But it's also things like unlocking funding for community violence intervention programs. I mean, these programs are so incredibly important. At the state level, we've unlocked hundreds of millions of dollars to fund them. I'm on the board of Advance Peace, which is an organization that does this community violence intervention work, and they're so effective. And then at the federal level, we unlocked about $1 billion. So these are programs that desperately need our funding and our support, given the rise in gun violence right now in this country.
So Shannon, it's kind of hard after a day like yesterday to think of, one battle at a time here. But I'm, like you, very worried about this Supreme Court. And there's specifically a case before the Supreme Court right now that I'm very, very worried about. Can you explain to our listeners a little bit about what's going on there and what's at stake, and what is the plan for activists if the worst happens?
Yes. So this is a Supreme Court case that was brought by an NRA affiliate based in New York, basically saying they want to loosen the permitting system. Right now, New York and 7 other states have a pretty tight regulation around permitting. This is just part of the NRA's attempt to bypass what average American citizens want and go to very conservative courts and get their way in order to sell more guns ultimately. If this ruling is against us, meaning that it does weaken the permitting system, it will impact about 1/4 of all Americans in this country. And you'll suddenly see more guns in more places. In fact, what's interesting is that during the arguments, Alito made it pretty clear that he thinks there should be more guns on subways. And we know that we've seen 2 horrific shooting tragedies on the subway in just the last month, including a mass shooting. So it would be bad, but we are prepared. We are already planning how we will deploy our grassroots to address this issue legislatively. We can tighten training requirements. We can tighten permitting requirements at the state level. We can engage in signage campaigns. What's really interesting is after Texas passed permitless carry, our volunteers were so successful in getting local businesses to put up signs that banned not just open carry, but also permitless carry, that an NRA board member says he wished they'd never passed the law because now he can't take his guns anywhere. So there are, I always say, when you try to stop us from coming in the door, we will come in your window, because we are not going to live in a world where our children and our communities are in danger. It's just never going to be acceptable. I will never be numb to people being slaughtered in the places they should feel safest.
What do you say to Republican senators like Ted Cruz, who are currently still planning to attend the NRA convention this weekend?
Can I say fuck Ted Cruz?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
You actually definitely can.
Fuck Ted Cruz.
Cool.
How do you sleep at night? How does that man, Ted Cruz is right now out there saying, we just need more security in our schools. Police and an armed school resource officer could not stop this 18-year-old who had semi-automatic rifles and maybe body armor. We're still finding out more details. Same thing in Buffalo. There was an armed guard in that grocery store. Ted Cruz acts like laws don't work. Did you know that after a hot air balloon accident killed 16 people in Texas, do you know what Ted Cruz did? He authored and passed legislation that tightened hot air balloon regulations. So apparently, when it comes to hot air balloons, laws work. But when it comes to guns, which, by the way, he happens to take money from the gun lobby, I don't think there's a hot air balloon lobby, they don't work. And it is such a moral offense, and it sickens me.
Yeah, same, big same. The shooting in Uvalde comes less than 2 weeks after the shooting in Buffalo, where 10 people were killed at a grocery store. There are 14 other incidents that we categorize as mass shootings in between then and now. You mentioned not giving up hope, not giving into cynicism. how, Shannon, like you're out of all the people that I follow on social media, of all of the activists that I keep up with, you are the most on top of it. And it is some of the bleakest shit. How do you stay hopeful?
I don't know what other choice there is. If the other option is doing nothing and sitting on the sidelines while we watch this slaughter of innocent people, I can't do that. I don't know why this is my life's work. I have never been impacted by gun violence. But after the Sandy Hook school shooting, and frankly, shame on me as a white woman for waiting until I felt like my children weren't safe in their schools to act. But that's what got me off the sidelines. And I think sometimes we see this as such a heavy lift or hopeless. And again, I think that's exactly, that's a feature, not a bug. If we give into that, if we give up, then this will be the outcome over and over again. We can change this. I am watching it happen. Again, a decade of experience. I'm watching it happen at the local level every single day. We have a 90% track record of beating back the NRA in state houses every year for the last 6 years. We've passed background checks in 20 states. We've disarmed domestic abusers in 29 states. We've closed loopholes like the Charleston loophole in 20 states. We've passed red flag laws in 20 states. Over 2 million families in this country have received secure storage notifications because of the work we've done through school boards. That is life-saving work. And it all matters and it all adds up. And I just would encourage everyone listening to us, first of all, please text the word ACT to 64433, and we will reach out to you right away and tell you how to plug in where you live. But find a piece of this work you're passionate about, whether it's legislative work or electoral work or cultural work. Find what speaks to you and do it. There's a story I tell about activism that I read before I even started Moms Demand Action. And there was a person who made sandwiches for the unhoused. And people would reach out to them and say all the time, oh, please let me send you a donation to make more sandwiches. How else can I help? And this person said, make your own damn sandwiches. People, make your own damn sandwiches. Get off the sidelines, use your voices in your vote. If you're one of the 50% of this country who hasn't been impacted by gun violence, God bless you, but it is coming. It is coming to your community. So act.
Shannon, thank you so much for joining us today. I texted ACT only to realize that I had already texted ACT. And
Me too.
I was like, oh yeah, I gotta re-engage in making the sandwiches, because I think yesterday and the last couple weeks have been just a huge wake-up call to people who are on the sidelines. So Shannon, thank you for all the work you do. Thank you for taking the time to join us today, and thank you for your words. We really appreciate you and the work.